Hello, everyone. Welcome again to today's webinar, The Sales Pivot, Selling Your Products and Services Effectively in a Post-Pandemic Economy. I'm Rebecca Imholtz. I'm the Director of Development for your Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. And we're joined again today with John Carroll. He is the President of Unlimited Performance Incorporated. He is our moderator. He does an amazing job. I have really enjoyed the webinars that we have been putting together. Haven't you, John?
I have indeed, Rebecca. I've learned a good bit about perspectives from many different verticals, and it's just a richness that I think permeates the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. And so we've been very fortunate to have as guests people from all across the wide spectrum of businesses and organizations, for-profit and not-for-profit. And so we're glad to present and continue to present what's working and not working in organizations in the midst of and following the COVID-19 pandemic. This event is presented exclusively by the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce. My role as moderator is to introduce our three panelists, get the discussion started with some questions, and give you, the viewer, the opportunity to participate by using the chat function, which Rebecca will be monitoring as we go.
That's right.
I welcome our panelists and those attending the event live, as well as those taking advantage of the recorded event. Thank you for taking the time with your Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce to join fellow members in looking at real-world, real-time strategies and tactics to help you sell and serve your key clients and customers, as well as new prospects in this post-pandemic business climate. You know, pre-pandemic, high-performing leaders worked to add value and keep their teams fresh and open to change. Now we're facing a disruption unlike any we've experienced firsthand, and change is basically forced on us. As a result, we're challenging basic assumptions in this new normal. These challenges and others hold true for our three guest panelists today. I'll introduce them by name and ask each one of them to share one key benefit that the current disruption has given them. Our first panelist is Amanda Bunting Comen. Amanda is the owner of Social ABCs, helping businesses and nonprofits with their social media management and strategy, public relations, event planning, and other marketing needs. She is a Charlestonian and holds a bachelor's degree in sociology with a minor in women's studies from the College of Charleston. Amanda is a Constant Contact and MailChimp partner and an ASPE instructor. She is a 2006 graduate of the Charleston Metro Chamber's Leadership Charleston, and a 2008 winner of the Charleston Regional Business Journal's 40 Under 40 Awards. With extensive experience serving on boards and committees, Amanda currently serves on the Women's and Gender Studies Community Advisory Board at the College of Charleston, the City of Charleston's Commission on Women, and the Charleston Friends of the Library Board of Directors. Amanda, welcome. And share with us, if you will, one benefit that you've derived from the disruption.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. And I was pleased to be invited to participate in this panel talk today. One benefit that I've noticed as a social media manager, I've been happy and pleased to see that more people are using social media regularly during this time. You know, people are forced to stay inside and practice social distancing, so they're looking for other ways to stay connected to others, and social media has been filling that void. And nearly all social media platforms have reported their use has doubled. And so as restrictions are being lifted and changes are being made along the way, I'll be keeping my eye on how that affects social media usage.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Amanda. I'm sure that's been an amazing uptrend, and it'll be interesting to see how that, if and how that levels out as we're out and about back face to face with people. Thank you. Our second panelist is Cullen Murray-Kemp. Cullen has a vision to help educate communities on local pertinent healthcare topics. Cullen and his business partner, Bill Macchio, started HealthLinks magazine to provide a medium where local healthcare providers could speak directly to community members who need to know about health and medical options open to them. Before starting HealthLinks, Cullen had a successful college basketball career with an academic focus on journalism. After college, Cullen moved from Maryland to Charleston to write about lifestyle and athletic happenings in the area. His work has appeared in both the New York Times and the Boston Globe. Cullen, welcome, and tell us one benefit that the disruption has provided.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. Appreciate you and Rebecca reaching out and inviting me to join your panel. So a benefit, I think it's allowed for time to be creative and think sort of outside the box, to use a cliche, but to think about different avenues of media that we wanted to pursue that we never really had the time to pursue prior. So our creativity and our team's creativity has allowed us to start two new platforms. One is and moving our brand from just print to digital. And we started HealthLinks podcast and HealthLinks newsletter. The newsletter affords us the opportunity to cover health news. Our magazine would come out every other month and the newsletter is weekly. So it's more to date. And our podcast is a wonderful platform just because of the nature of the consumer wanting the content whenever, however they can get it, and podcast allows us to do that.
Yes, indeed. Cullen, thank you. And I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit as we go, but you're covering a field profession that is incredibly pressurized in this time of pandemic and healthcare issues. So I'm looking forward to our conversation. So thank you. Our third panelist is Grady Johnson. Grady is president and group publisher of SC Biz News, which publishes the Charleston Regional Business Journal, the Columbia Regional Business Report, GSA Business, South Carolina Lawyers Weekly, North Carolina Lawyers Weekly, the Mecklenburg Times, and SC Biz Magazine. Grady was part of the startup of the Charleston Regional Business Journal in 1995 and continued in his leadership role as the company expanded statewide. He is a past president of the Alliance of Area Business Publications, an international trade organization. Grady is the immediate past chair of the Palmetto Conservation Foundation and serves on the board of Palmetto Green. He also serves on the board of the Charleston Regional Development Alliance. Grady, welcome. And what's one good thing that's come of the pandemic in this short term?
Well, John, I'm listening to those other answers. I was sitting here trying to think of one good thing, and I honestly can't. I hate the whole thing. And about the only advantage I see is I'm saving money on haircuts and dry cleaning.
Well said, Grady. Well said. Thank you for being sincere and frank about that. And thanks to all three of our panelists for taking the time today to share some thoughts and insights. Here's the first question for the panel, and we'll start in the same order as the introductions with Amanda, then Cullen, and finally Grady. What is the single biggest hurdle you expect to face or you're facing already as you work through this extraordinary time? Amanda, we'll start with you.
Well, when I was thinking about this the other day, marketing is most often the first line item in the budget for most businesses to go. Some companies are pausing their social media plans and campaigns. Businesses are temporarily closed or permanently closing. And from my perspective, I have to get creative in the services that I offer to appeal to a smaller budget.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Amanda. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because, and all of us are talking about this, I think, especially with our two other panelists who are in what we might consider to be traditional media, is if anything during this time, you would think you need to amp up. You need to get in front of more people rather than fewer. And it's going to be a bigger challenge. You build a bigger challenge for yourself by going and sort of hiding, as it were.
Right.
Thanks, Amanda. Cullen, same question. What's the single biggest hurdle you expect to face or you're facing already in this extraordinary time?
So it's not so much a hurdle for me and for our company, but it's more a hurdle for our partners. As you can probably imagine, 90+% of our partner base is healthcare. And it's really about patient confidence and consumer confidence. They, from the big institutions to the little doctor's offices, people are scared to go into the doctor's office right now. And so we are working as diligently as possible with our partners to provide outlets and resources that will help improve patient confidence. One thing that we did was we offered free 2-year subscription to all of our to the patients of all of our partners in the interest of improving that relationship, because it's vulnerable right now, the relationship between the doctor and the practice and the community and patient. So that is a strong hurdle for them, but again, forcing ourselves to be creative and thinking about big picture. I call it working on the business instead of in the business every day. I think has allowed us to retain all of our partners through this through the pandemic.
Excellent, Cullen. Thank you. And isn't it's just so opposite what you think of. We go to our healthcare professionals specifically because we trust them. And now in the wake of the pandemic, that trust has been eroded through no fault or anything of the healthcare professionals themselves. It's quite a dynamic.
It's an interesting challenge for sure.
Thanks, Cullen. Grady, same question. What's the single biggest hurdle you expect to face or you're facing already?
John, since I cheated you on the first question you asked me, I'm going to give you 2 answers on this one. The first, one is a short term, I think, and one is a long term. And the longer term challenge I think we're all facing is just uncertainty and the difficulty of making business decisions and talking with our customers about their own businesses and the decisions they're making, I think is going to be a long-term challenge. Short-term challenge for us is the effects of social distancing. Journalism is a contact sport. And when we bring young salespeople and young journalists into our organization, one of the things that we always have to overcome is the tendency to stay isolated at your desk, send an email out to somebody with a question, or an email out with a sales inquiry, and whereas you got to be old school and you got to go out on the street, and if you go out, if you're a reporter and you're going out to an interview in person, and you pass by 6 or 7 other things that pique your interest, you come back to the house with 6 or 7 story ideas. Whereas if you sat at your desk and emailed them the question, you're going to get an answer to the one question. So this whole social distancing thing is changing the way that we're having to do business, and I'm hoping that it's a shorter term thing that we'll get through. But right now, I absolutely despise it. I hate working at home. I hate being isolated from our staff. I'm a walk around manager. I don't and being disconnected from that mood and that, how is the staff feeling? How does the marketplace feel? How do my customers feel? How do my interviewees feel? It's very difficult to have that come across in any kind of digital communication. I mean, I think the meeting that we're having now on Zoom is a great example. We can all, this is marginally acceptable as a meeting. And so I think that's something that hopefully will be short term, but for me, it's a huge challenge.
Understood, Grady. Thanks. We talk about, in sales, but also in journalism, we talk about getting in front of people, right? We talk about the value of not just getting words on a screen as a response, but we get a chance to see body language and understand the inflection and the nuance, if you will, in the communication with whether it's a a newsmaker or, a partner, as Cullen was talking about. So I couldn't agree with you more there. Thanks, Grady. Second question, panelists. We'll start with Cullen, go to Grady, and then finally Amanda on this one. What's one key thing you're doing now in the current business and economic climate that's preparing and equipping you for the work ahead? Cullen, we'll start with you. One thing you're doing now.
So, as you can imagine, a lot has changed with our with our business. I just think it's so important to stay active, lucid with our decision making. Hospital made up 40% of our distribution, hospital waiting room distribution prior to this. We're no longer able to dispense magazines in the hospitals, at least for the foreseeable future. So while we're pulling back on our hand delivery distribution, we're increasing our subscriber base by way of our partners and leveraging their relationships to reach more people and improve their relationships with their patients. I had mentioned moving digitally. We've always had what I consider kind of the foremost independent medical website, but taking our brand, our established brand of HealthLinks, that name that people recognize and trust is huge right now, and transitioning that brand into different mediums. So, that when people listen to our podcast, they already know that they can trust it because it's HealthLinks podcast. I think valuing the brand that you've worked hard to create over this time and repositioning it has been a very valuable concept for our podcast and our newsletter. So keeping our brand, but just being able to move and transition into other avenues to reach people.
Thanks, Cullen. Grady, same question. What's one key thing you're doing now in the current business and economic climate that prepares and equips you for the work ahead?
We're focusing on innovation as a driver of everything we're doing. So it's it's not a bad exercise to do when things are normal, but we're doubling down on innovating new products, and that I think is going to pay dividends for us, not just in this current situation, but as we come out of it, we'll have an array of fresh products that I think will be valid when we eventually get out of this sort of current situation that we're in. But I think we're kind of stuck in the soup we're in for a while. So those products I think will be very helpful.
Thanks, Grady. Amanda, same thing. What's one key thing you're doing now that prepares and equips for the work ahead?
Well, typically I have a 3-tier service menu with monthly pricing. And because of the current climate and the economy, I've adjusted some of my services to be more a la carte. I've also added a one-time fee service that might benefit those who have extra time on their hands to clean up and spruce up their social media profiles. Checking your profile pictures and cover photos and making sure your bios are up to date and refreshed, checking those analytic reports and looking at your competitors. To help businesses and organizations that don't know where to start or to begin or need advice along the way, something I'd offered is a social media audit servicing to help guide businesses through the process.
So one of the ways you're adapting is you're at least, you've got something now that's an offering to at least get them on the path, whether you stay with them on the path or don't.
Right, and most often, companies ask for something like that, and then they don't know where to start or how to begin to take that next step. So then, you're right, it's a way to get them involved and maybe down the road become a more involved client.
Sure, absolutely. It's another door for them to enter in and do business with you too, right? If they can't look at the other options available. Thanks, Amanda. Third question for everybody, and Grady, we'll start with you, and then we will come back through Amanda and then Cullen on this one. What's one thing that you recommend that others in businesses similar to your own do or don't do as a result of what we're working in and what we're living with right now?
Well, I'd broaden this to say just about anybody in business, not just in our industry, and that is to fail fast. And what I mean by that is when you're innovating products and services, don't spend weeks and months in research and development, because once you get to market with something that you've invested a whole lot of time in, it's very easy for it to suddenly become a bet the farm kind of an idea. So try to get out into the marketplace as quickly as you can, and fail fast. Get feedback from clients or technology or whatever it is you're trying to do as quickly as you can, and then pivot. Whereas if you're it takes a couple of months, you may miss the opportunity, or you may have invested so much time and money that that was the only thing you could try. So I'm just a big believer in coming to market as quickly as you can, and don't get it perfect. Just get minimum viable product, go out in the marketplace, get some feedback, and pivot.
Thanks, Grady. And I think your approach makes sense. Your wisdom there is that right now, perfection is not what people are looking for, right? There's a little more grace in the marketplace than there might be under different circumstances.
There's way less perfection underneath this hat right now than my wife looked at me the other day and said, "Man, I gotta cut that hair." I was like, "Man, I got a hat. I'm just putting that thing on."
I got it, Grady. I get it. Thank you. Thank you. Amanda, same question. What one thing would you recommend that others in businesses similar to your own do or don't do as we move forward?
Well, luckily I have my hair appointment scheduled tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that. But as someone who works from home and as a solo business person who doesn't have employees or coworkers and can sometimes feel isolated, I would say to stay connected, find your squad, meet regularly to chat about your industry and share ideas. Before the coronavirus, I have 2 colleagues that I would meet with physically once a month, and now we check in with each other at least once a week, if not, a couple of times a week, and we do it over Zoom, or we've also been trying out different things like Google Meet and Facebook rooms and all those fun things.
Okay, that makes sense too. Thanks, Amanda. That's for those who were already home-based businesses, it makes a lot of sense for the frequent check-ins. Of course, the Chamber is big on that as well with all the networking opportunities. Amanda, thank you. Cullen, same question. What one thing would you recommend that others in businesses similar to yours do or don't do as we move forward?
Probably the best piece of advice I could give would be focus on your current partners. I don't think, from my perception, now is not a time to be out soliciting and knocking on doors and trying to get people to spend more money with you as a business. What we've done is we've, instead of compromising our rates or offering discounts, we've figured out solutions to extend our partners' footprint further into the community. Whether it's the newsletter, the podcast, or the subscription, the concept for me, and it's been successful to date for us through the pandemic, has been we're hyper focused on our current partners and not losing the current set of business and revenue that we have coming in each month, and not putting as high a precedent as we had before on, you know, new sales, but working on the established accounts. And then to just want one more thought is that I believe that decision making right now shouldn't be as much for the short term. I think looking at big picture concepts, I believe like we have time. I keep telling my parents this is all you have is time when they feel stressed out because they're isolated at home, and you know, just take it beat by beat and just make, if you can, focus on big picture decision making. I think that would be my advice.
Thanks, Cullen. I appreciate that. Let's see if we can bring Rebecca in. Rebecca, you've been listening closely, as you often do, and also monitoring to see what our viewing audience may have for us in terms of questions or thoughts.
Well, Cullen actually touched on it in terms of the question being, are you cutting your rates right now for your products or services? And Cullen touched on it by saying that you're not, but you're expanding your services for that same rate. So that was a question that came through. I'll ask the other panelists to answer that, and Cullen, certainly if you have more to add to that, go ahead. And also let us know how we can reach each of you, whether you prefer a website or email.
Thanks, Rebecca. Let's start with Cullen on that.
Yeah, so I think that when marketing budgets are tightening up, you know, every business has their marketing line items where they're spending their dollars, and us as a partner, we have to prove that we are not the line item to cut. So we do that through, I mean, constant contact, of course, but through creativity and offering more to our partners during this time, more value. So I didn't think the best option would be to go in and offer, you know, discounts or anything like that. And on the other end of this, the other side of this, my goal and everything I reiterate to our team on our weekly Zoom meetings is I want the community and our partner base to say, wow, you know, HealthLinks really did a good job of educating the community on what's happening in terms of healthcare, of taking care of us. So we want to stick with them for the long term. So that would be my response in terms of giving discounts.
Thanks, Cullen. And Amanda, you touched on this earlier about adding to your offerings in a way that would provide value for someone whose budget is perhaps a little bit lower than you were usually servicing. What would you add to respond to Rebecca's question?
Kind of going on the lines of what Cullen said, you know, not discounting my services or offering lower rates, but being more innovative in the services that I do offer. So there are other options that businesses or organizations can choose from if they don't have the budget or, you know, the money to spend on a full service at this time.
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate that. Grady, same question. Cutting rates, keeping them where they are. What's up?
Well, so if somebody's talking about price, that sounds like a buying signal. That's a sales lead. Send me that email. You know, we're trying to innovate some products that are at, you know, a lower price point, so that we can help some folks who normally don't have the kind of bucks it would take to do a larger sustained advertising run with us. And so we're you know, there's some, like, and Amanda would know this. I mean, you can do some things on social media that don't cost a lot of money, and some things like that we're assisting customers. And you know, with our existing customers, we're you know, really blessed to have a lot of companies that have been with us for decades. And so we're bundling up some things and creating some packages that that, I mean, if you took and did the math, it's probably a discount. If you go, okay, well, is it a discount? Or yes, looks like a discount, smells like a discount, it's a discount. But we're bundling those things up with some other things that we think is good for an overall marketing approach, and trying to create some packages, if you will, that keeps somebody in the game, and get their name out there. So it just takes a lot of creativity, and but I've never been a fan of going out on a sales call with a rate card in my hand and going, hey, if you buy something, we'll give you a deal, like it's some kind of used car lot or something. But sometimes you gotta just help somebody out.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. Grady, I'm going to throw something out, and if the other panelists choose to respond, that's great. But I'm going to just pick on the two of us for a second. You and I have been around a little while, and that's a nice way of saying we've been through a few disruptions prior to the pandemic. What do you see as the similarities and maybe one main difference of this one compared to, say, 9/11 or the recession of 08-09?
Well, I think the common denominator there is uncertainty, and everybody wants to be able to fly the airplane and look out the windows of that thing and see where you're heading. Every once in a while, you got to do some instrument flying, and I think that's the euphemism I would use for this period of uncertainty is if you've been through a couple of these things. I really, I approach this thing the same way. Number one, I have no bloody idea what I'm going to do, but I know I'm going to get through it. And because I've done it before, and, we've had our tails kicked so many times. I know that having a tail kicking ain't no big deal. And that's the kind of thing that I try to wear on my sleeve when I'm talking to the staff, and be very open about the fact that I have no idea what we're going to do, but we're going to be okay, and we'll think of what we're going to do together, and even if we have to think it up day by day, that's the plan. Everybody likes a plan. Okay, well, the plan is you wake up this morning and you figure out what the heck you're going to do, and so I think that's sort of the key to it, and it just takes a couple of good old tail kickings over the course of a business lifetime to realize that you're gonna be okay.
Yes, indeed. Well put. Thanks, Grady. Amanda, Cullen, any thoughts on that one?
Sure. I wasn't a business owner during the last couple of trying times that we went through, but I was working, and I feel like across the board, all those times that finding out what your customers, clients, members, whatever want, and be able to provide that value to them, I think is key. The chamber is doing a wonderful job of that, sending out surveys, asking questions. How can we help you? What can we do? What kind of value can we provide to you? And I think across the board with a lot of businesses, if they follow what their customers want, then they'll be successful in the long run and can look back and make changes along the way.
Thanks, Amanda. Cullen, any thoughts on that one?
Well, 2008, I was a senior in high school, so I don't have much perspective on how this compares to that. I think the optics of your business right now are really important. People have more time. They're consuming more media. So how you appear right now, it's a great hook for keeping people advertising with you and marketing with you. But there's a lot of truth to it. People are going to remember the businesses that were out in front of the market during this time because there's more eyeballs and more time to see them. So yeah, it doesn't relate to 2008 or 9/11, but the optics are very important.
Well said. Thanks, Cullen. Rebecca, any final thoughts before we give the panelists time for a final thought?
I would like to hear from them the best way to reach each of you.
Okay.
And maybe talk about your ideal client.
Let's have them talk about that and mention that in their final thoughts.
Okay.
And let's go the way we started in that order. Amanda, if you will, please, a final thought and how people can find you.
Final thought is pay attention to the social media trends. Don't be afraid to try something new. Take advantage of this time. And like I said and Colin said, you know, everyone's eyes are on social media and paying attention to who's out there. So over communicate. You can't, there's no such thing as too much communication right now. And I can be reached on my website. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and all that stuff. My website is socialabcs.com, and you can find all my contact information there.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amanda. Cullen, same question. Final thought, and where can you be found?
Final thought, I think that it's extremely important right now to help your team members, help your employees, if you have those, create structure in their lives. It's so easy to get disoriented, disassociated with routine, and I think routine and structure can introducing those can help be more successful, alleviate anxiety during quarantine. And so if you can constantly communicate with your team and try to work with them to create and introduce structure into their work lives, I think you'll see more productivity from your team. And yeah, to be reached, just website, emails publisher at HealthLinksMagazine.com. HealthLinksMagazine.com. You can find all my information there.
Wonderful. Cullen, thank you. And Grady, a final thought, and where can we find you?
I would just say, you know, be flexible, you know, continue to create value. Look at what is out there in the marketplace now in terms of communications from other companies. Stop copying that. Have a fresh message that is demonstrates and clearly outlines the value that you're bringing to the business community. The best way to reach me is gjohnson@scbiznews.com.
Thanks, Grady. Thank you, Amanda Bunting Comen, owner of Social ABCs, Cullen Murray-Kemp, publisher of HealthLinks magazine, and Grady Johnson, president and group publisher of SC Biz News, for your time and participation today. Thanks to all of our chamber members with us live and those catching us on the recording. And a big thank you to Rebecca Imholtz and Tamara Cornwall for keeping the Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce out in front and serving our members and the community. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks.